pretty much as long as I remember, I've had these philosophical ideas. I think they're either at the root of my philosophy or my philosophy is at the root of them. Anyway, it's part of my own personal nature that I seek this these two things, and one of them is politeness. I don't know why, but I remember when I was young thinking that it was always possible to be polite. It was never too much to ask. It was pretty easy to be polite, and it was worthwhile. Okay, and it was a nice thing to do, and so polite. But then another thing also, as I grew older and I encountered, lying in others, and the temptation to lie, an experience of lying as a child to others, that I did not like that, and I believed in honesty. And then a lot of my adult life has been the conflict between these two urges, to be honest or to be polite. And I've struck on something that is an attempt to be as polite as possible, while never sacrificing honesty. If push comes to shove and you have to sacrifice honesty or politeness, you sacrifice honesty. And that's just that. The honesty overrules. But you can interpret this in the politeness sphere of, it's not polite to talk behind people's back, to hold grudges that you will not represent to them. That's why our justice system has the right to defend yourself and hear your accusations. So many people. And it's funny because I see this in the workplace where people are supposed to be, this professional and somehow on the job ethically. That people hold grudges. They don't tell the other coworker the complaint that they had, so they don't give that other person a chance to one, defend themselves, or to repair the behavior. And of course, people do that because so often people don't try to repair the behavior; they just defend themselves, and it blows up, and it's like, oh, don't cause trouble. Well, I do cause that kind of trouble, okay, in my life around me, because if push comes to shove and I see that the honest information is not being conveyed, then I will try to convey it. And people in this society have trouble appreciating that very directly, because it seems like, I can be hot-headed, right? I can really force everybody to look at something, and that's like, they don't like to be forced in that way. And I understand that. And in general, I would not do that. I've learned, like in a social environment, that, well, whatever, I'm very easygoing about it. In a professional environment, it's more difficult because it's like, look, the bridge is going to fall down if we leave this girder out. And people want to just go leave the meeting without, addressing that. It's like, no, you have to pay attention to this. And it's funny because people are much more tolerant of this holding of grudges, and then you meet somebody else that holds a grudge and they all bitch about some other person and their problems. And I don't do that. The few times that I do bitch about somebody's performance or competency, I have gone to them with the complaint as well. And it's very much in the open, and pretty much anything I say to person B could be said to them as well. Now there's a variance in diplomacy, of course. If you're talking to another person, you might be less diplomatic and whatnot. But basically, the idea is if I was recorded, that other person could hear it and know that yes, it was more blunt, but they wouldn't go, "Hey, you never even told me." They would be like, "Well, you told me in a much more diplomatic way. Do you really think it this critical?" And I would have to tell them, "Look, my opinions are intervals." And it goes from a somewhat critical to a very, very forgiving thing, usually, with behavior. Certainly on any one kind of thing, people can seem to have been, uh, you know, doing something badly for one reason. It's really another much more understandable reason, or something beyond their control. And again, that's another thing about the kind of, if you're blunt for honesty. If you're blunt for honesty, the purpose is communication, so basically all should be forgiven. And I really tell this as an instruction to the world, because I'm not going to change. I see how the world is. I've learned how to interact with it, but I don't give as much as I could, and I know there's things I could get out of giving in different ways, but I'm not willing to give up what's important to me in terms of honesty and communication and its interaction with true politeness and true respect for another person, which involves being honest. To truly respect someone. That's why you are polite, and you have to share with them so that they know. And I've learned the exceptions. There's exceptions. Maybe Granny doesn't need to know this or that about. Um, I don't need to attack her for her bad politics or something. You know what I mean? And so there is no way to talk about it politely. And so okay, Granny's just living out the end of her lives, and I'll get her a cup of coffee. There's exceptions, but basically the general rule is and again, back to something professional where you're doing something like right, then you're going to have this kind of communication. And you can think of it as a thick skin, but really it's more than that. It's the willingness, it's the desire to know the truth. To know the truth will heal you from these pangs of knowing the truth. The truth hurts. You need more time in the truth gym. Just get more truth until even the hurtful truth hurts like a workout, because the truth is, I don't know that it helps us survive. I assume that's probably biologically. Why else would I have this desire for the truth if it didn't? But everybody thinks the lie helps you survive. The lie is obviously in your best interest. The lie is better. And we're trying to look for, well, why tell the truth when obviously the lie is better? That's like the whole investigation into telling the truth in the history of Western philosophy. When the lie is so much obviously better and more advantageous, why tell the truth? Well, I have this desire to see and hear the truth. And I think the more you listen to it, the more it is like a mental workout and a truth workout. And it gets your truth muscles going. And then you are able to conceive of the truth as we do in natural philosophy and in physics and in the real applicable sciences. And then we achieve, being able to go to the moon and something like this. I mean, it seems so mundane now. We went to the moon. This is amazing. It's hundreds of thousands, millions of years of mammals and, millions and millions of years looking at that moon. And it's like, what is it? I don't know. It's a goddess. It's all of these things that it still is. And we've been there. Okay. So this is from perceiving the truth as reality. Now we also built a nuclear bomb with our knowledge of the truth. So will we survive it? I don't know. I don't know. I do believe we have a desire, and we're going to find out.